Have you ever found yourself just scrolling and you can't figure out what's making you do it? Well, it's not magic, it's actually a science. Today, we are going to decode the psychological and neurological tricks that platforms and creators use to completely hijack your attention. So, ready to crack the code? Let's dive right in. Okay, before we go any further, I want you to take a look at this number, 23%. Just lock it in your memory for a minute. By the time we're done here, you'll see why this single figure is one of the biggest keys to unlocking the entire retention code. All right, let's start right where every single video either lives or dies, the very beginning. And I'm not talking about a simple introduction, it's more like a high-stakes battle for your brain's attention. And believe me, the clock is ticking way faster than you think. That's it, 5 to 10 seconds. I mean, that is all a creator gets in today's attention economy. If a video can't prove its value, like right now, viewers are gone. And what's even worse, the platform's algorithm sees that, and it just stops pushing the content out. So, how on earth do you win this make-or-break fight for attention? Well, you do it with this. It's called a pattern interrupt. See, our brains are literally wired to notice anything unusual. An unexpected sound, a really shocking statistic, a quick camera zoom. Anything that shatters that monotonous pattern of scrolling makes us stop and pay attention. And look, there's our number again, 23%. Videos that throw a pattern interrupt into the first 5 seconds get a 23% higher retention rate. Why? Because you've just been jolted out of that passive scroll, and now you're active, you're engaged, and you have to know what happens next. So now that we get why the hook is so incredibly important, let's pull back the curtain and look at the secrets behind the trick. How are the best hooks actually built? You know, after combing through thousands of viral videos, researchers have spotted a core set of psychological triggers, and you can see them right here. We already talked about pattern interrupts, but let's zoom in on a couple of the other really powerful ones, using hyperspecificity and creating tension with contradictions. These aren't just, random creative choices. They are precision engineered to be irresistible. Now, check this out. This is what's called the specificity effect. Just look at the difference here. The generic hook, totally forgettable. But the specific one, it paints a picture, right? It's a real, relatable human moment that makes you immediately think, oh, wow, this person gets me. That kind of hyperspecificity creates an instant bond and a huge sense of credibility. And this is a brilliant example of the power of contradiction. Our brains are hardwired to resolve tension. So when we hear something like this, we can't just scroll past it. We have this instinctual need to know the story behind that conflict. It creates what's called an open loop that we just feel compelled to close by watching the rest of the video. Okay, so these hooks are obviously incredibly effective at grabbing our attention. But what happens after that? What is actually going on inside our brains that makes it so darn hard to look away? To answer that, we have to go deeper and look at the neuroscience of the scroll. Scientists are actually giving this a name now, short video addiction, or SVA. And this isn't just, a bad habit. Recent research is defining it as a legitimate behavioral addiction. And the fascinating part, which is also kind of scary, is that it measurably changes the physical wiring in our brains, the parts that are responsible for making decisions. Yeah, using brain imaging tech, researchers have pinpointed the exact parts of the brain that get hijacked. In people with SBA, 2 key areas just go into overdrive: the part that processes rewards and the part that helps us make really complex decisions. In other words, these algorithms are targeting the very systems that are supposed to help us control our own impulses. This is a really powerful quote that comes directly from the research. The algorithm is delivering these perfectly timed dopamine hits that actually make you more impulsive, more sensitive to losses, and less satisfied by normal, real-world rewards. Your brain gets locked in this state of partial attention, always just looking for the next hit, which makes it harder and harder to focus on anything long-term. So we've seen how these platforms can literally hijack our brains. But how are creators able to consistently churn out content that's so perfectly optimized to do that? Well, the answer, more and more, is artificial intelligence. I love this quote because it perfectly captures the shift. AI tools like Google's Notebook LM aren't about replacing human creativity. Instead, they're acting like a force multiplier, an exoskeleton for the mind that lets a single creator synthesize huge amounts of scientific research, psychological studies, and data trends into a script that just hits all the right notes. And the workflow is actually surprisingly simple. Creators upload their source materials, like those neuroscience studies we just talked about, to ground the AI in actual facts. But then they go way beyond just asking for a summary. They use advanced prompts that really challenge the AI to think critically about everything. I mean, just look at this example of an advanced prompt. It's not asking, hey, what did the study say? It's asking the AI to literally create a debate to argue both sides of an issue using specific evidence from the sources. This is exactly how creators are generating unique, layered content that goes so far beyond a simple book report. It's really about turning raw data into compelling drama. So, this all leads us to a really fascinating question. In a world where AI can generate perfectly optimized, attention-grabbing content almost instantly, what becomes the most valuable currency? The answer might actually surprise you.
A recent study looked at AI-generated avatars in science communication and found something totally paradoxical. Everybody just assumed that the cartoony, stylized avatars would feel safer and more trustworthy, but the data showed the exact opposite. The more realistic, human-like avatars were rated as being more expert, more benevolent, and more trustworthy. This flies directly in the face of the famous uncanny valley theory, and it suggests that in an age of total artificiality, what we're really craving is realism.
And that leaves us with this final critical question. As AI gets better and better at creating hooks and stories and even faces, the whole battle for attention won't just be about psychology anymore. It's going to be about trust. When everything is designed to hold our attention, the real challenge becomes deciding what's actually worth paying attention to.